Welcome back with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow. Our second interview tonight is FYERS. Good having you here with us on the show, Tejas. And let's talk about FYERS. And before actually we talk about the market and how it's changing and why you decided that this is the business and space that you wanted to be in. This is a series of conversations that we're doing with young entrepreneurs such as yourself. And I know you started very young. Before we come to any of that, FYERS is actually an acronym, right? Maybe you want to talk to us about that and where the idea for that came about.
Yeah, so I was actually trying to come up with names for a company, and I thought it needs to resonate with the way we think. And so the acronym actually stands for Focus Your Energy to Define Yourself.
Wow. Okay. That's very highbrow stuff. So I do know that you perhaps put a lot of thinking into this business, and you want it to be very different, perhaps from all the existing players that we're seeing, and we'll discuss that in detail. So when you're saying we, I do know that it's you and your two brothers who are involved in the business, right? Yeah. Where did the idea for this business really come about, and when did you start really?
So we started in 2015, but the idea to start a business like this came a long time ago because I always grew up like a creature of the stock markets, trying to learn how the world works, how the stock markets work, and why it works like that. That's how I got started.
Creature of the stock markets was it something that was being discussed at the family, say, dinner table, and you grew up hearing that?
No, actually, I was flipping through the television channels and I came across a news channel.
Okay. I'm not going to ask you to name them. Okay.
And so I try to ask people around me why these numbers are moving and what does it really mean. Nobody was able to answer my question, and so I just decided to drop science in school, take up economics, and learn about it. That's how we got started.
Okay, so let's talk about the business model of FYERS really. What is your USP? And what sort of a segment do you really cater to?
Well, in principle, the USP is focus. Right?
Okay.
We are not trying to be a company that builds everything for everybody. So we know that whatever we are doing is specifically targeted for those who are active traders and investors.
Okay.
And we've been committed to that. So whatever we do revolves around that.
You are not looking at the retail part of the market?
We are. We're primarily catering to retail traders. But we're also, these retail traders also want to be semi or professional.
Okay.
Right? And so their expectations generally tend to be different from the general crowd.
Okay.
And so, so we're able to cater to their requirements because we're focusing on them already.
Okay. So what sort of opportunities and challenges really, when you're talking to this very segmented part of the market, what have you faced in your professional journey?
Opportunities and challenges. The challenges is that they tend to be a bit unforgiving because, trading is a ruthless game, right? The market does not forgive anybody for their mistakes. And so everything needs to be on point and it needs to be like that all the time.
Because we are talking about the markets.
Exactly. So even a small lapse, or even if there's a 5-second outage, makes a huge difference to these guys. And so the challenge is always to be at your best and to have your entire team tuned in to give them what they want. In terms of the opportunity, well, it's not easy to earn their loyalty, But once you do, then it's very hard for them to get that elsewhere.
Okay.
And so, in terms of the opportunities, I'd say being a company that specializes in catering to them is, I think, an opportunity in itself.
Okay. So your market has been changing quite a bit from when you've launched 7 years ago to where we are now. Right. One of those is perhaps driven by the fact there's a lot of competition. We're talking of the likes of Zerodha, Lakshmi, which caters specifically to women. We have Upstocks, for instance. And while I do know that you are catering to a very specific target and a very specific niche of this market, if I can call it that, how has this market really changed? And just in terms of competition, why should someone look at you versus perhaps looking at a competitor? What do you want to say through this interview?
Well, so see, unlike most other brokerages, we are not chasing first-time investors. No, that makes us different to begin with, because the minute we start, like I said in the beginning, the minute we start doing everything for everybody, then we lose focus. And we're perhaps different because we're able to focus on those things which are specifically required for traders, such as API trading. We're quite popular among the algo traders. We're quite popular for those who trade a lot, like day traders and short-term traders, because we give them very fast order execution, extensive data to take decisions, low latency platforms and such. While these may not be appreciated by everybody, those who are in the markets every day certainly know the importance.
Okay. One of the other things that has changed as far as your industry is concerned is the pandemic. I do know that a lot of, particularly first-time investors, came onto trading platforms and started getting interested in the markets and wanted to trade more. Has your industry also been affected, and has it changed? Have you seen a lot more demand? How did you really keep pace with perhaps those changes?
I think COVID was the best thing that ever happened to the industry, frankly.
Okay.
So without COVID, we are more than 10x pre-COVID and post-COVID. Right?
Okay. In terms of the number of traders you have. Okay.
But what we observed is with us, we didn't particularly get the first-time investors. We got a lot of the second, third-time guys,
sure.
Those who've been in the markets. But the market has been changing year over year because of regulations. Ever since 2016, regulations have, and that's right about the time that we came in. So when we actually got the license to be a stockbroker, regulations started to kick in like crazy.
Absolutely.
And so it's almost like you're born and you start out in a war zone type situation. So we learned things the hardest way perhaps, and we learned how to differentiate from the get-go.
Okay.
So in terms of the changes, another thing that's happening, you mentioned competition. I think right now what's happening is that the industry is headed towards a consolidation, although there are so many players right now.
Okay.
Because of the compliances and the capex requirements, I think there will be far fewer brokers in the future.
Okay. I want to talk about funding and financing. And I do know that you are entirely bootstrapped. Is that a model that you're going to continue looking at? Would you perhaps look at fundraising at any point in the future? Because everyone's talking unicorns, everyone's chasing valuations, and you're very different in that sense.
Well, see, when we got started, I tried to raise money from VCs as well. I was unsuccessful, actually.
Why is that?
I think because the VCs expected too much. In the sense, I was actually trying to run a business. But then I think the expectation was maybe, perhaps it didn't match. Because, it was on a completely different tangent. And so for whatever reason, it didn't happen. And there came a point where I decided maybe I should focus my energy on running the business rather than chasing investors.
Okay.
And when I did that, I think what the switch happened. So we became self-sustained in maybe 2 years from then.
Okay.
And so we thought, it's going on, so might as well run the business ourselves.
Okay, and that's a model that you're going to continue looking at? Would you look at fundraising at any point in the future?
Well, the day we require fundraising, we'd be happy to, but I don't know if we'll still do it with VCs. We may explore other avenues, maybe going public perhaps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a question I was asking you offline, and I'm curious to understand through this interview, if you were talking to someone who's been trading for a bit, but is saying, perhaps I should explore platforms like yours. Why should they look at going through you versus someone else? I know we discussed USP, but if there's one line to tell them, this is, hey, why you should be looking at someone like us.
See, I've been a professional trader for years before I became a broker.
Okay.
Right? And the team here has also been in the stock markets. And so it's one thing to get a customer and just build out random products for them.
Okay.
But to know exactly what they want, because I've been on the other side of the table.
Okay.
So we know exactly what to build. See, the big deal in brokerage is that brokers don't understand technology, and technologists do not really understand broking.
Okay.
It's a complicated business. Right? We here at FYERS, we understand both. And so that's actually a rare combination.
Okay.
We're able to understand what they want. We get it. And we can also go out and build it.
Okay.
And that's what makes us different.
Out of time on tonight's conversations. If you have any feedback for us, do let us know. Our details on your screens as we speak. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.